Story 1. Am I the a-hole for walking away when my sister's flirting crossed the line with my girlfriend? I've had this account for a bit, but I prefer lurking instead of posting. My, 19 male, sister, Haley, 20 female, not real name, is a very open and flirty person. She's never put a label on her sexuality, but she has said she's attracted to everyone. Ever since we were in high school, she'd often flirt with girls I was interested in. She'd also flirt with my friends when they'd come over to hang out. Sometimes Haley would even come into my room without knocking just to talk to them. It was very uncomfortable, and some of my friends even stopped coming over to my house because of it. This made me really angry, and I told our parents, 45 male and 42 female, but they'd always say I'm being homophobic and to leave her alone. So she'd get away with it. A few months after she graduated, she moved out of the house, and I haven't had to deal with her flirting with my friends anymore. 7 months ago, I met my now girlfriend, Layla, 18 female, and we really hit it off. We've been together a little over 4 months. One thing to note about Layla is that she's really shy, so she never voices any concerns until after the fact. Well, I really wanted her to meet my parents, so we set up a quick dinner at a nice restaurant on Tuesday night. Without even telling me, my parents invited Haley, who was almost 30 minutes late. For the better part of the dinner, she would constantly flirt with my girlfriend. She'd given Layla compliments about her clothing, body, facial features, and even offer her number multiple times. My parents would just laugh along with her antics, saying how it's just how she normally is, but I could clearly see Layla was uncomfortable, so I paid my side of the bill and took her home. When we got to her house, I asked if I could spend the night, and she said yes. And that's where I've been for the past few days. My parents and Haley have been blowing up my phone, calling me all sorts of names, which has me thinking I was in the wrong. I haven't answered any of my sister's messages, but I told my mom where I am. When I asked Layla about it, she said the compliments were nice at first, but she got uncomfortable. So, am I the a-hole for making a big deal out of my sister flirting with my girlfriend? No, you are not the a-hole. I, in the past, was more of a flirty person. I don't think I am anymore. In my 20s, maybe. And I know a number of people who are very, very flirty, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And they might be flirty with me or other friends because they know they're okay with it. And I think flirty people need to realize that you need to be respectful of other people. And in this case, the sister is not being respectful of both this, young woman that she does not know and is being awfully flirty and forward with, but also isn't respecting you when it seems like you've made it very clear to her that you're not comfortable with this. And frankly, that should enter into the situation at least to some degree, if you've been with a girlfriend for a while and the girlfriend is a-okay with that kind of flirtiness, maybe some of it could be understandable because, hey, they have fun with it, they're a-okay with it, and, you might not be, so maybe they tone it back a little bit, but you're not completely controlling how they act. But in this case, the sister doesn't know this girlfriend whatsoever. She has no reason to think that this young woman would be okay with this kind of interaction, and she knows that you're not okay with it. It makes you uncomfortable. So yeah, no, that's just really inconsiderate on her part, and I don't think that you're an a-hole at all. Story 2. Boyfriend of 10 years broke up with me over a game. Okay, here it goes. I was nervous about posting this, but screw it. So, this isn't totally D&D related, but I use dice in my Conan server, so yeah. Anyway, I run a Conan RP server for my friends and I, and it's been going pretty well so far. For a long time, every time I've tried to run an RP server, it has always gone wrong in some way. Somehow someone has had an issue. This time, though, things are different. This time, everyone has been having a good time and getting along, and here's how it started. So back when we were still dating, aka a few weeks ago, I would tell my boyfriend everything. We had lots in common and generally enjoyed each other's company with or without the rest of the friend group as a couple should. For some context, it was a long-distance relationship, and I know what you're going to say, those kind of relationships never work out. Well, we made it work. We made it work for a long time, in fact, for about 10 years almost. You see, I'm disabled, so the fact that a guy could love someone like me, knowing all the BS I've had to deal with and still deal with, was a godsend. We met through a video game. Cringe, I know, but it's not like I can just go out and meet people. Anyway, I would tell him everything, and so would he. We even fell asleep in party chats a few times. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and I started telling him about my RP server. I figured since he likes hearing about my D&D sessions that this would be no different. Boy, was I wrong. So I started telling him about the stuff that had been going on in the game. At first he wasn't interested in joining my RP server, even though another one of our friends wanted him to. The way I run the server is that people would be given the password once they made a character sheet, and that's where this becomes a horror story. Remember how he said he wasn't interested in joining? Well, every so often my friend would ask if my boyfriend was going to join. I would say, no, probably not, until one evening when he decided that yes, he was going to join. I got excited and started yelling at him more about what's been happening in the game. I told him about people's characters and stuff like that. But then it occurred to me, and I asked, oh, wait, do you have the DLC map? I should have told him beforehand, as it likely would have saved me some trouble, but it completely slipped my mind since we tend to game share. However, had I known what trouble this would cause, I would have done this GA different if I could have. He then proceeded to get upset at me, saying he didn't have the DLC and that he didn't care for it and thought we were playing on the original map. He also said that I wasted his time because he apparently spent half a day working on his character sheet, but it was pointless now, even though all he had to do was get it off me. But no, he threw a tantrum saying that you never told me anything beforehand, just told me to join. Newsflash, nobody was really told anything because it's all self-explanatory on the Discord, so all he had to do was make his character. It also didn't help that I told him that my character had a child with a friend's character. I asked him if he had a problem with it, and he said no, and asked how. It was pretty much the characters got drunk and practiced diplomacy, but it wasn't ERP or anything that fade to black and bad dice roll. Now me, my boyfriend, and this friend in game all know each other, and he's married, so I wasn't doing this to cheat on my boyfriend. We just thought of it as stupid fun, but my boyfriend, however, did not. This incident has taught me to never take what someone says at face value ever again, because even though he said it didn't bother him, it actually did bother him when we talked days later. By that time, he had already thrown in the towel that was our relationship. It was devastating and had me in tears for many nights after. When we did talk it out, however, I found out his issues. I guess I can understand from his point of view, but if he had just told me it bothers him, I could have changed things. I asked him, what now? Because we do still care for each other, and he said, it's your choice. Clearly it's not, because you already made your choice by breaking up with me instead of talking out, but okay. I told him I didn't want it to be my choice. I wanted the feeling to be mutual and said maybe it's best if we go our own separate arcs, so to speak. For some extra context, remember how I said we were together 10 years? In this time frame, we have already broken up 3 times before this. No, we hadn't seen each other in person, face to face, which should have been a red flag, now thinking about it. I told him that the 3rd time was his last chance, and he's done well up till this point, which is disappointing and sad. My heart goes out to this person. I feel very bad for them because, yeah, I mean, it's hard enough to go out and, meet people in this day and age, even when you aren't, unfortunately, dealing with, apparently, this person has a disability that's going to make it even harder for them to go out and meet people. And, that really sucks because it also can make staying in certain relationships just seem easier than having to find another one. And that's heartbreaking. Because, yeah, if you've already broken up 3 times over these 10 years and you've never been able to meet face to face or anything like this, and this person is acting like that, like this jealousy and getting upset that you just forgot that it was a DLC. Like if someone told me that, like, oh shoot, do you have the DLC because you need that? I completely forgot to mention it. I'd be like, shoot, no, but I understand. Not be like, I spent this time making a character. I'm so upset. How could you? Like, no, be reasonable. And this person sounds like he needs to do a little bit of growing up and maybe just isn't the best. So, I don't know. I don't see a great solution to this. I hope the person posting this, is maybe able to meet someone better, someone who treats them correct, right. So, I think you deserve that. Story 3. Today I effed up by spending my wedding anniversary with another girl. On accident. Last Monday I went out with an old friend, female, who I haven't seen for ages. We were both hard-pressed to find a time to see each other, so when we finally arrived at the meeting place, we were both pretty hungry. Luckily, I knew a great steakhouse nearby. So we went out for 2 amazing steaks. Overall, we had a ton of fun catching up. We planned to meet for just a couple of hours, but ended up only getting back home past midnight, with a promise to repeat this sometime later. So far, this doesn't sound too bad. Well, the story begins a couple of years ago on my first wedding anniversary. You see, back then, me and my wife had a couple of things planned for the day and eventually ended up starving in a random part of the city. Pondering that we actually don't want to cook today, we decided to find a restaurant. Fortunately, we had no idea what we wanted. But while discussing that, we stumbled upon a steakhouse in a relatively hidden alley. The steaks were pricey, but it's our anniversary, right? We can go for a good meal on this day. And it turned out to be an amazing decision. We accidentally discovered the most famous steakhouse in our city, and the steaks were absolutely stunning. We've been going there every anniversary since, always having a great time in meal. Since I liked this story, I of course mentioned that to my friend during our meeting on Monday. That I know of the steakhouse by accident, and that is actually really funny because it's been actually this exact date next month when we went there for the anniversary back then. You see, I'm a guy that cannot remember dates. The thing is, my wife and I had the first date and wedding 2 months apart, but on the same day of the month. So it's easy to remember the day, but for the love of me, I cannot remember the months. And back on the fateful Monday, I thought our first date and our wedding anniversary was only 1 month apart, and I actually remembered the first date, so I believe our wedding anniversary is next month, but it was that Monday. To add a bit more to the story, this friend and I have met is someone who I used to have romantic feelings for. My wife, of course, knows about this. Well, earlier today, my wife expressed sadness that we weren't able to plan anything for our anniversary. I asked why, since it hasn't even happened yet, and that's when I discovered that I have not only missed our anniversary, but actually spent it in our restaurant with another girl that I used to love, and to top it off, I had a great time. You may be asking why we haven't been planning anything for the anniversary. That's because my wife's been ill for 2 weeks. She is good now. My wife hasn't made the connection yet. What should I do? Okay, first off, as someone with just terrible ADHD and an inability to remember any important dates ever, especially when they're coming up. I've literally forgotten my own birthday multiple times. You need to start putting stuff on your Google Calendar or Apple Calendar or whatever it is as just a yearly reminder that's going to come over to you. You gotta do it. You do it once, and then every year you get a nice little reminder. Set it up to do email reminders. I don't care, but please save yourself the trouble and do that, because otherwise you're just going to constantly forget dates and feel really, really bad about it. Trust me. Now, second, since you've already screwed up, you're asking what should you do? Be honest and communicate. Relay this to your wife. Will she maybe feel a bit hurt? Yes. Will it be rightfully so? Kinda, yeah. I know you forgot, but you know that you're forgetful and bad with dates and stuff, so... But you did think that you knew the date, so you shouldn't feel terrible about this, and hopefully your wife will understand. But just be open and honest, because let me tell you, you tucked this little secret away. She's gonna find out eventually, and it's gonna feel worse if she doesn't find out from you sooner rather than later. Story 4. Deny basic human rights, lose your job. So this happened when I was in grade 10, age 15 to 16, 2006, so a while ago now. I went to a very expensive private school in Australia, which was basically a cookie cutter for accountants, lawyers, and surgeons. I wasn't that type of student. I was an artistic outcast of sorts. At that stage, I only had a small handful of friends. We had 6 55-minute periods, 2 in the morning, recess, 2 in the middle of the day, lunch, and then 2 more before home time. This particular day was a warm day, and in Australia, warm means 32 degrees Celsius, and it was 5th period. We had religion class. I am the opposite of religious, so I didn't particularly like this class, nor the teacher that much, but I knew it was important to try my best. In the 4th period, I got dry and thirsty, so I made it my priority to drink a stomachful as soon as it became lunchtime. This is important. Fast forward to 5th period and a religion class with entitled Teacher, E.T. I was working with a partner very close to the front of the class and my teacher's desk. I was fairly involved in my work and wasn't concentrating on much else other than trying to finish the prescribed work. I noticed that as the time went on, that big drink was working its way into my bladder. I tried to put it off and just concentrate on my work. I didn't notice the commotion developing towards the back of the class. Not many students took religion seriously. Neither did I, but I wanted to try. My teacher was getting annoyed with the troublemakers, and I knew she was known to double down on the class as a whole for bad kids, so I raised my hand before things got too bad and asked, "Miss, may I please go to the toilet?" She replied, "You had all lunch to go, so no, you can wait till the end of class." I didn't want to push it, so I just let it go and thought that if I got to bursting, I'd ask again. Class often got noisy, and she would condemn us all and tell us to stop talking. Mind you, I was only talking quietly with my partner. I started really busting to go. I was jittery in my seat and developing sweat on my forehead. I whispered to my partner, "Man, I am busting," and he said, "Ask again?" So I did. Big mistake. She glared at me and said, "No." So at this point, I couldn't concentrate on my work. That full belly of water was now in my bladder. Damn. I decided to ask one more time. "Miss, I can't even concentrate anymore. I'll be 2 minutes max." We were right above the toilets and had the stainless steel next to the classroom. "I don't care," she said. Pretty peed off because I'm not sure what type of lesson this is trying to teach me for my professional life post-schooling. Enter Troublemaker Kid. He starts acting up and starts a mini scuffle with another student. Entitled Teacher screams at him, "If you don't want to be in this class, you can leave." He looked blankly at her and said nothing. The class went silent. I saw my chance. I stood up in class and yelled at her, "Oh, you won't leave? Fine, I will!" And I turned to walk out. Entitled Teacher reels around and says, "If you're going to leave, you can march yourselves over to the year-level coordinator's office and tell him what you've done." Oh, wrong thing to say, Ms. Entitled Teacher. I was halfway out the door at this point with my back turned to her. I turned on my heel with a massive smile on my face and said to her, "Yes, I'd be happy to. I'll tell him all about you." I walked out and the silence was broken by a roar of testosterone-filled teenage boys like that you would hear at a boxing match. That pee was in my top 3 enjoyable of my entire life even to this date. I stood there at the urinal knowing I had a cool 30 minutes to burn. I then went to the coordinator's office beaming but shaking with nerves and proceeded to tell him the story. I'm so glad the school is very careful to put level-headed people in these positions. Shortly after I finished explaining, I got the mandatory, "You shouldn't have done that" speech and was told to go to my next class. The next day, my homeroom teacher told me I wouldn't be going to that class, but instead would have to go to some other English enrichment class or something like that. Also, my friends had told me what happened in the class after I left. There was a huge uproar even from the kids who didn't like me about my treatment, and everyone hates her guts now. It was 2 days at least, and I'm at my locker, which is very close to the coordinator's office, and I see her sitting out the front in a student's chair. Oh my, that's a step down for a teacher at my school. She was absolutely bawling her eyes out. I didn't see her at school for a whole year and only saw her teach one class the year after. A lot of people told me she lost her job after that. As someone who once wanted to be a teacher and who has teachers in his family and friends who are teachers, my sympathy for what teachers have to put up with is massive. I feel for what teachers have to deal with every day, rowdy students, and how it frustrates you, and how sometimes you're going to make little mistakes and stuff. But if there's one thing I've been very vocal about, it's teachers. If you don't let students go to the bathroom, that's like, it should be a crime. You don't even get that kind of treatment in prison, or you're at least not supposed to. Like, the whole, like, you had all lunch to pee. It's like, That's not how this works. I don't go like, well, I am going to be in class later. I guess I'll make myself have to pee now. And full up, let's go. Like, that's not how the human body works. So, yeah, the fact that you, like, got in trouble and lost your job for that, yeah, that can, like, literally, it can be dangerous for some people not to pee and stuff like that. Like, you don't know what you're putting those students through. It's a biological function. You can't deny them that. It is cruel. And no teacher should do it. Like, I can see her maybe getting just a slap on the wrist for a first time doing that, but if she got fired, I feel like there must have been, some previous offenses too. Or maybe not, and maybe that's a risk you run when you do something like that. So, don't. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.